I keep saying that I had such a beautiful childhood. I don't feel that I was poor nor deprived, because we kind of have everything we needed. We just don't know the bar of what necessity is, or what, in the pyramid of that. So we enjoyed a lot of time in the forest, in the river, running up and down the stream. And the school, though we went to, as I said, it's just a public school. When I was in my primary school, we don't have, especially me, I never had enough book to read, nor like bedtime reading and things were out of the question, because I have about 5 siblings, and there was no new uniform nor new book. So the kind of book that was passed down to me was already torn down. The cover was already missing. And we don't have cursive writing. We just, no uniform. We wear slippers. And even the uniform was like a passed down kind of that. But I really enjoy being in school. I really enjoy learning, regardless of the quality of education I got at that time. So fast forward, as I realized the differences of what I get, but being quite lucky in a way that I learned very quickly and I was quite good at my studies. So I was always number 1 in the school. And then when I did my high school, there were also competitions where I kind of get scholarship here and there. And I was able to ended up get first to study science, and being able to get out of my hometown, and then eventually went into one of the best university through being a board scholar. And reflecting back of how I studied and how I grew up, and then the differences of me then from that hometown kind of educations, accessing that kind of educations to accessing a world class of educations, I realized that it doesn't take much time for someone to have a transformations when you start providing the same resource and opportunities. So the university that I went, it was quite unique and special. We were all young women recruited from 17 to 20 Asian countries, and a lot of us were coming from all different type of backgrounds with all different type of culture and things, but with a passion to make a difference. And they kind of treat us like a future leader. That's how they always call us. So our university was Asian University for Women. Sherry Blair is our chancellor, and we have had a lot of faculties from Stanford and Harvard, and even from the UK, like Oxford and Cambridge. And what I realized at that time was then that if we were given the same resource, a resource, for example, accessing a resource to one of the best journal for academic writing, and also reading a book, and also accessing to down to our professors, I realized that in no time, our way of thinking, our way of seeing things, and the way we conduct ourselves was no different from someone who come from Harvard or from UCL. So then my thinking was that, then how about if I were able to provide that kind of same thing? So it's not that you are being born smart or you are being talented, but it's your environment that kind of shape you a lot, and also the grit and the blood and where you are from. So of course it's very important that your family upbringing, how your parent taught you, how they encourage you, and then what kind of passion you want in life. But to cope up with that, a lot of the time you might have a very strong passion and you want to change the world, but if you just don't have access to any of resources, if you're so limited by your environment, it's very difficult to get where you are or where you wanted to go. So growing up in that area and in that kind of situations, and having that kind of true life, I would say, for me was that, okay, I'm one of the very lucky, very few people to get out of that situations, but it's not enough. I know, because as I said, I'm not that smart, nor talented, nor special. I'm just an ordinary village woman, village girl, who were lucky to pick up and find my ways. But if the same opportunities, the same resources, the same platform was given to people back home, I wonder how many Alinery would come out of that situation. So it was such a strong urge for me to be able to connect that, to bring back. So I started the first library And the reason also why, because people keep asking in this day and age when there's so many innovations, there's so many new things talking about library and books. It's like, it's not so fancy nor like so, I would say, but for me, it's quite important, because I realized that was the key, that was the difference that made. So I started the first library back in 2017, after we had the project at APYE in Bangkok, in Thailand, and also in Japan. So I was in a 1-month project with JICA, and again at that time I was a group leader for the project that we had. And when the reason why we were selected the best team at the time in JICA was, they said Alinery Lianhlawng team was very good at defining their problem. So JICA always emphasized on knowing your problem very well, and I applied the same methodology that I was being told many times back in my university. Like Albert Einstein said, if I were given 1 hour to solve the world's problem, I'll spend 59 minutes to defining the problem and 1 minute to come up with a solution. So I always try to apply this thing into everything that I do, because a lot of the time we have so many solutions, but because we don't realize the deeper or understand the problem we wanted to solve, sometimes the solution doesn't fit. It's like a lock and key. You need to have your lock. You need to know the problem, where it's going to get, so that when you insert your key, it fits and it is able to unlock the things that you wanted to do in life. So using that philosophy, using that thing, I realized that for me, what is so important is that I go to different platforms, to the UN, to conference, the outcry of me being, being a tribal woman, growing up, being angry for a lot of the things. I was angry, I was mad at the history of what my parents has to go to, especially for my community. I keep thinking, what if there was no colonization? What if there was no war? What type of world my grandparents would have inherited me, the legacy, what they would have passed. Should I be a living queen, a living princess, nor who would I be? There were lots of options and history is so important because it shaped what you are today. And a lot of the time I was a protester. I was so mad. There were so many things to be mad at, and I kind of blame the history or the system. But then it also struck me after that incident that I do not think there's anyone that actually loves my tribe or my community than I am. And expecting, just like in the past, the English or the white people for our enlightenment, it's not going to happen this time, because they are not us. So waiting for the World Bank or waiting for UN to intervene in my community is not the right solutions, because I know my community best, and hence I'm the best person to help the community. And knowing the problem that I have gone through, knowing the obstacles, what stopped me or what would have stopped a lot of other youth like me, was not being able to access resources and opportunity. So I started the first library to the high school that I graduated, and to also the small, so 2 schools, the primary school and the high school has the library now, and then it's kind of expanded. When I did the first project, I did also studies, and I realized that even in high school alone, we have about 650 and not even 5% has library. But when you go to like college or even like in the UK here, every school has library. It's a sense part of it. You don't go to the kitchen not having a burner to cook. But then in my place, it's like quite something to talk about. You just don't. Even if you have a library, the 5% would be like a ghost library. There would be 1 book or 1 computer. It doesn't work. So yeah, that's how it started.